Welcome to another episode of Under the Barbell Strength podcast. I'm your host, Colton Haynes, and if this is your first time tuning in, we'd love for you to follow and subscribe. Feel free to leave us a comment with any questions or topics you'd like for us to cover. The purpose of this podcast is both educational and an opportunity to showcase some incredible coaches I've had the privilege to meet throughout my journey in the strength and conditioning world. I think listeners will enjoy the diverse range of guests who will share their experiences in coaching, enhancing athletic performance, nutritional strategies, speed training, and exploring the mentality of being a strength coach. By uncovering the weight room philosophies and strategies that make these strength coaches successful, you'll gain valuable principles to elevate your own team's performance. So join us as we grow together one conversation at a time. Joining us today is Coach Dillon Adams of MidWestern State University in Texas. Coach Adams played college football at Howard Payne, where he got his undergrad degree, and later a master's at Charleston State in 2016. Coach Adams started his coaching journey at Charleston State and then stops at University of Texas, University of Houston, Ottawa, University in Kansas, and again at Charleston State, and is currently the head strength coach at MidWestern State in Texas. Coach Adams holds certifications of his SCCC, CSCS, USAW, and level 1 and 2 of the RPR. Coach, welcome.
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me on.
For sure, man. I saw where you have a lot of stops and a lot of experience, so it's going to be a good conversation. First question I got for you, off of your experiences, what is the commonalities between Division I and Division II? You talked about how you were at Texas and Charleston. The good thing about you is you've seen the FBS, FCS, Division II level, even the NAIA, so just kind of talk about some things that go hand in hand.
Yeah, and I tell people all the time, one thing that's amazing, regardless of the level, you're going to have an opportunity to work with great athletes. In my time at NAIA, we had some guys that had some pro looks on our baseball team, which was really cool. Obviously, working at Texas, you're dealing with five-star athletes left and right. But at the end of the day, it's the same job. I mean, we're here to get the athletes better to perform on the field or court, whatever they're doing. And I think the biggest commonality, is just going to be the athletes all want the same thing. They're there to win. They're there to be better. Obviously at the bigger schools, you're going to have cool tech. You're going to have all the shiny things. But if you're creative, you can get the job done anywhere. When I first got to Ottawa, we had bars, racks, and weights, and that was pretty much it. But we got a lot of good stuff done. And it taught me a lot how to be creative with very little. And coming from obviously a smaller school to start with up to the highest level, I have been fortunate to work with every level. But at the end of the day, it's the same job. It's working with athletes that want the same thing. They want to get a ring, they want to get an education, and then move on. So I think that's the biggest commonality between all the levels.
Sure. And just tell us a little bit about your role right now, where you're at. What teams are you involved with?
Yeah, so I originally, when I first got here, I just had football, basketball, and our women's soccer program. We've been able to expand our staff, and I've been able to let one of my GAs take over a women's soccer program. So my main focus are football and basketball teams, but as anybody knows, if you're the head strength coach, you kind of are involved with everything. So everywhere. My GAs, mentoring the young coaches, and then just making sure that what they're doing is good. But my main functionality is obviously educating those young coaches and our internship program, which are really building up, which it wasn't very much before I got here, and taking care of football and basketball. So right now we're in the midst of basketball season all over the place, and it's kind of nice to step back a little bit and just focus on the one sport. But yeah, so football, basketball, and then assisting when needed, when GAs leave or whatever happens, step in. And so, I might end up taking our softball team this spring if I need to. That's just kind of being ready for all that.
Yeah, you mentioned your staff with GAs. Talk about how many you have on staff and what they do.
Yeah, currently I have 3 GAs. We're looking at adding a 4th one come summer. It just kind of depends on a few things. As anybody knows, at smaller schools, budget's going to decide that one. I treat my GAs like full-time as far as responsibilities of what they do with their teams. I'm there to support them 100%. But in the end of the day, they're the point communication for their coaches. And that's how I was a GA When I was at Tarleton, my teams were my teams, and I assisted with football and basketball and anything else asked of me. I let them have freedom, and they do what they need to, following within my philosophy of training and what I want, but they get freedom within that as long as they're following a few set things. But I truly believe with GAs, that's the best way to help them be successful, is kind of give them that autonomy early on and let them learn how to communicate with coaches and set schedule and do that kind of thing. And right now, I've had a multitude of GAs go on into really good positions directly out. I've got former GAs that are head strength coaches, Division II. They're Power 5 strength coaches, and they're kind of gone all around, all the way. You've had some directors at the high school level. And I truly believe it's because of the way I'm able to give them freedom, let them learn over that year and a half, 2 years. But they take all of our Olympic sports that I don't have, and then assist me with football, each getting the opportunity to run their own position group within football that I program. But that's their position group. They get to coach them. They get to make any changes they feel needed and all that. So a lot of freedom for them on that.
Yeah, and I was going to ask, does that come with trust at first? Like when they first show up, are you giving them XYZ sport, or do they have to earn their trust first and then you give it to them? How do you delegate that at first?
Yeah, usually I'm pretty intensive on who I hire. I've got a pretty good network to go in. I like to get somebody that's obviously just suggested. This new one coming in that I have will be the first one that's kind of a quick turnaround go. What I'll typically do is I'll hire them. Their teams are theirs right off the bat, but I'm going to have a lot more interest in programming for them for the first 6 to 8 weeks. Once I feel that trust, that I can trust their programming and all that, I'll let them go with checking in. And my staff knows if I'll ask them, hey, why are you doing this? And they can't give me a good reason why, I'm probably going to tell them, hey, take it out. If you can't tell me why you're doing it, you're not going to have them do it. I won't do that for something unless I don't know what it is, why they're doing it. But yeah, they have to earn my trust a little bit. But once they get it, it's one of those things I tell them, I'm never going to take anything away from you. I'll always keep giving you more, the more I feel like you can take it. Once it's theirs, it's theirs. So it's not like I'm going to give them programming and then take it away from them unless there's a major conflict with the coach. So it's always been where, again, I get somebody from previous GA of mine sends me somebody, or, you know how it is. They usually get a little more trust. When I have hired somebody just right off you send a job posting, you get somebody, takes a little more time. But after that first 6 to 8 weeks, usually get them taught. They're doing exactly what I want them to do, and they're good.
So focusing back on you, at what point were you like, all right, maybe a strength coach is what I want to be? So give us some background on you, and at what point were you like, hey, I can do this?
Yeah, so I'm interesting. I was an injury, and that's kind of what got me there. Like a lot of people, I started my path wanting to be a sport coach. Originally going into college, I actually started pre-med and got in real fast and figured that wasn't for me. And so I switched and was looking at being a football coach, whatever level. I got injured my junior year of college, wasn't able to play anymore, and was given the great opportunity by my head football coach, wanted to keep me around the program, wanted me to coach our tight ends, and that's kind of set my path. And through way of it, we didn't have a strength coach. And after my first semester, I got asked to help with the weight room and help with strength conditioning. And after that one semester of that, they pretty much gave me the reins of it. So when I was there and I got hurt, and I, in my career, imbalances here and there, it was one of those things unavoidable. But I think having a better strength program could have helped lessen the injury. That was kind of my thought process of, I'm doing the weight room. I always loved the training. I always was one of those guys. I liked the off season a little more than the in season, the camaraderie and all the hard work that went into it. That when I was given the reins on that, this is where I need to be. I think there was a day, I think it was a 6:00 lift with the football team one morning. It's just, this is what I want to do. It just dawned on me in the middle of it. If things were going smooth, I had guys sitting PRs, and this is what I need to do. I could care less about the X's and O's. So kind of blessing and a curse getting hurt, but it turned into a really good thing. It allowed me also to get my career started early. I mean, I started coaching when I was 21 years old. And I thought when I got hurt, man, the world's over. You know how that is when you're 20 years old, you're thinking about that, but it was the best thing that ever happened to me.
For sure. And like I said, you've been all over the place with some very successful programs. Was there any life experiences that you had whether it's a coach or an athlete that molded you into the coach you are today?
Yeah, I've had a lot of good coaches. I tell people ask me this a lot of times, especially young interns. I go back to my quarterbacks and receivers coach, which I wasn't one, but I ended up building a good relationship with him. He's now an athletic director here in Texas, and the way he coached, he was just real. We all knew who he was. He let his personality show, and he was just a great guy. And I still reach out to him every now and then when I need things. I wanted to emulate how he was and what kind of coach he was. We all knew we could go to him and he was going to be honest with us, whatever the answer was. And then my first GA spot, or my GA spot at Tarleton, I was very fortunate to work under a legend in the field with Rod Cole. Been doing it for many years, extremely successful in his whole time doing it. And he taught me all the ways how to function, how to run a strength program, down to programming, which I'll be the first to tell you, my programming is not much what he did, but the way I organize and the way I do things, is very similar to how he did it because he ran a great program. And then moving on with my other opportunities and, going to be with one of the best programmers out there, in my opinion, with Yancey at Texas, just really molded the way I want to do things and let me really dive into understanding there's 1,000 different ways to do it. But also, again, I think what makes him very good is he's real with his athletes. And again, they get to know his personality, know who he is, and know how he functions. And that's one thing I always try to do, they see us as a strength coach, we're supposed to be out, all that. And that's not me. I'm very cool, calm, collected. Yeah, I'm going to get raw, all that stuff when needed, but my athletes know who I am. They know I've got a personality. They know I'm here for the best interest for them. And I think that's the best way to get them to buy into you is just be you, and they're going to see right through if you're faking it. So I've had some really good mentors and I've had some GAs that have come through and taught me a lot of stuff. That's what you always want with good GAs is they make you better, right? I've had some that have pushed me. I've had some that have brought in new ideas that I still implement, to this day. So been very fortunate, early on in my career, moving around a whole lot, but it taught me a lot of good stuff with having some really, really great coaches to work with.
For sure. And even when you were a GA and intern, you had to build trust and relationship with your coach. How do you build that trust and relationship with the athletes that you have now?
Yeah, kind of going back to like I was said, first of all, when it comes to anything with athletes, I think results speak volumes. When they start to see the results, that's when they buy in. This was an interesting situation here, and it's not something I suggest to anybody. I got here the day before football camp started a year and a half ago. They didn't know who I was. I didn't know who anybody was, and it was, hey, let's get after it. And from the very beginning, it was, this is who I am. This is what my expectations are. It may be different than how it used to be, but this is how it's going to be. And they really, once they saw the results, because did stuff differently, they started moving better, feeling better, everything than what they had. That's when the buy-in was. But when things aren't good, it's the hardest time, right? It's Texas. It gets cold every now and then. And when we're out there at, a 6 o'clock run for whatever reason, how do we get them to want to do it, when it's 30 degrees outside? And Texas guys, if it's under 50, they think it's cold, you know, and you got to make sure that you're continually bringing something to them that's going to give them results. It can't be the same thing. So I give them freedom a little bit. There's some days like, hey, what do you want to do? What's your hinge you want to do? And these are your three options. Let's get after it. They want to RDL heavy. Let's get after it. And then I'll talk to my guys that have been around and my girls that I've been around that have trust and they have a good idea of what we're doing. Hey, what's something you feel like we need more of? Or, how's the filling the team? And once they see that a little bit, I think they know that you're looking for their best interest. They get to have the opportunity to have that feedback and to have a little bit of ownership on their program. Now, if they're trying to tell me we need an ice plunge after every single lift or something, no, we're not doing that. And I'm going to educate them. But a lot of it, I think, just goes back to being yourself, going and letting them know who you are. I mean, I'm fortunate. My kids are up here quite a bit. They've got 350 aunts and uncles, and they love to see that. The athletes do, and my kids love to see it. Knowing that I'm a dad, knowing that, I know a lot of the stuff that they're going through too, because I'm dealing with my kids too. I've got a lot of my athletes, which I'm sure everybody does, have their own kids, and them just coming to me and being able to confide, hey, doors open, let's talk a little bit. So just being real and not trying to be above what they are, because at the end of the day, they want somebody they can relate with.
For sure. And you talked about being cold in Texas, and they kind of like, all right, coach, what's going on? So even not only in the in season part, but even in the off season, where you just kind of hit like a they just kind of hit a wall, and you got to kind of motivate them again. What kind of strategies are you doing to keep everybody going, whether it's in season, out of season?
Yeah, it's just a reminder of why they're here. At the end of the day, you could be having a terrible season, have 2 or 3 wins, basketball team or something, which luckily we're not having that right now. But what are you here for? And reminding them that their ability and their given ability to play the sport they in, it's an avenue to get that degree, and what's your why? That was a big thing of ours last year with our football offseason. What's your why? And I would have different guys come up and put them on the spot. Why are you here? Besides trying to win a championship, besides getting an education, what drives you to be better? And a lot of guys really bought into it. A lot of guys kind of just fluffed it off and threw something out there, but have them make them think about deeper level than just the sport itself and just chance to get a diploma. But what really drives you when it's hard? When we've got heavy sets of 3 on squat or something, what makes you want to get underneath that bar again just to get a little better? Because we all know it's going to help you with sport, but why are you doing it? And they couldn't just throw out, a BS answer. It had to be something real. So, I want to win. No. What do you want to do? And sometimes make them think. That was a big thing we did last year. We all know our little motivational speeches, that kind of stuff. When I feel like the whole team is down, I'll look at people that are smarter than me, that have had good thoughts, and expand on them. I'm sure you've read it, seen it. Weight Room Wisdom was a really good one. I'll go in there and I'll step in and just read excerpts from that every now and then, just because there's people in there, a lot of good strength coaches that Coach used to build that book that have some good stories. So use those. And sometimes I've even had athletes step in and let them tell their story. We had a really well-spoken offensive lineman this last year that he's going to be a great public speaker someday. And he gave a good 10-minute just talk of, what are we doing? We just lost a game, and he brought it in. We had one of the better lists we've had on a Monday, in a long time. So there's lots of different ways to do it. I think that's one of those you have to be very systematic on how you do it, though, because I've never been one of those every single lift. We need a big speech or rah. This is it. This is what we're doing. I'm a nose to the grindstone kind of guy. Let's get after it. But when you bring it out a little bit every now and then, you save it for the right moment, they're going to listen. And it's definitely something I think you have to be smart with when you do it. Because if, again, just like anything else with this generation, if you overdo it, they stop listening. Right. So try to keep that to a minimum, but definitely when I feel like they need it, we're gonna get some motivation into it. And then in the off season, I think bringing competition into it, making everything some sort of a competitive nature to it. So we post with any sports that we do our top speed training with, we post their miles per hour for them so they can see who our fastest people are. We'll post our numbers from the week. If we had velocity, which is something I want to get, we post velocity profiles and that kind of thing. So I think seeing the metrics, this is a generation coming through that they're instant gratification, but they also want to know the why. And they want to see the numbers behind what we're doing. They've asked, why are we doing something more than the other generation around? So let's let them see it. So we post vertical numbers that we test weekly on our jump mats. We'll put our speed numbers up, and that way they can see it and build that competition. So when you get somebody that, added 2 inches of their vertical or something over an off season, and they start creeping up that board, they get a little bit of pride to them. And I think that within itself is some motivation. It's a little bit of driver of, hey, I want to get higher on that board. I don't want to be 32nd on the board. I want to be top 15. So that's intrinsic motivation from themselves, but it's something we kind of help lead a little bit.
For sure. And us strength coaches, we're always trying to deliver messages, or, we have this, I feel like, off-season word that we might use, whether it's an acronym or basically the foundation of what you want to teach and instill in these kids' lives. Is there a word or anything that you use to, attack an off-season with?
Yeah. I usually have a different one each year. I've used resilience. I've used, relentless. Relentless was a big one a few years ago for me. I felt like we had a team that they just got happy. They were happy to win, and they were a team that could win by a whole lot, and it was our basketball team. So I look and I try to find a different word that we're going to build the offseason around each year. Like I said, what's your why last year? We had a coaching change, had some guys question whether they want to stay around or not. So let's found a deeper reason to what we're doing. Be quite honest, I haven't figured out what I want to do yet for this year. Still kind of looking at the makeup and where we're at. But it's just one of those things. I think you meet with the team, you see what you need, but definitely resilience. Relentless. Like I said, was a big one. The why, leadership. I think the really where I'm leaning this year is probably going to be a discipline factor. But you need to look at what the team needs. We are the driving force of that a whole lot of times. They see us more than they see their sport coach most of the time. And at this point, I think my basketball team is tired of seeing me. They see me 6 days a week, and they're tired of seeing me. But you have to know your team. You can't just go out there and throw something out there that you think is going to work, right? You have to know what your team needs. You have to know what's driving your team. You have to know the makeup of your team. If you've got a team that they're hard fighters, they're going to give you everything, you may not need to have something like relentless. You need to go a little bit deeper than that. So, got to know your team, got to push, and then you've got to also believe in what you're saying. You can't just go out and be like, oh, we're going to be all in, but then you're out there looking for other jobs, right? And they have to believe it. So it's an ongoing question of what's going to get them going. And if you've come up with something and it doesn't work and you see it early on, you've got to change it, But yeah, it's an interesting, fun time to figure out exactly how you're going to get that done. But there's always something to look forward to getting them better with that.
For sure. So there's thousands of different methods you could choose from. What's the foundation of your kind of programming? Just talk about a general overview of what do you want to achieve as a strength coach for the players?
Yeah. So I've been a tier system guy most of my career, but it's not a typical tier. It's modified, which Joe Ken will tell you all day long, do what you want with it, follow the skeleton and go. But my biggest focus, I want to create good movers. I could care less about the load if it doesn't move well. Now, and I tell our athletes all the time, I'm a meathead. I want to get you all as strong as possible, but if it's at a detriment to the sport, I don't want to do it. So definitely want to create good movers. Everything is from the hips out. If the hips aren't right, nothing else is going to be right. I'm not on the Olympic based. I'm not on powerlifting based. I'm on athlete based. We Olympic lift. I do deadlifts. We do heavy RDLs. I overhead press. I do a little bit of all of it, depending on level of the team and how often I see them as well. If it's a team that's not in here very consistently, or we have nobody in the summer with them, or whatever it is, I'm not going to Olympic lift them because they're so technically proficient of a movement that I don't see the point in taking all that time to teach them technique to have maybe a 3 or 4 week period where we're really able to get after it. So do a lot of influence from West Side Conjugate. Have opportunity to meet with Louis one time, and it's just
Awesome.
do what?
What was it like meeting Louis?
Man, he is a really very down to earth man. And it was once he realized that I had a little bit of brain behind me, he was great, and he just opened up and gave everything he had. Very, very good guy. It was a short meeting, but it was a good one that I was glad I was able to have. But he
Jealous,
did tell me
coach.
like, yeah,
But
you're
keep
not a
going.
powerlifter. No, I'm too tall. But it was a good opportunity, and I was glad I was able to have that opportunity.
Sure.
But
But off season's coming up. Everybody's favorite part of the year. When do y'all start?
yeah, so we're able to get them in on the 27th. We can't get them into the 4th day of classes, and we're just going to get them out in the field and run them a little bit, kind of see how we're moving, see what kind of shape they're in. Nothing crazy, a few tempo runs and get.
How do you program? Is it like two groups? Are you doing speed in the morning, weights in the afternoon? Are you going back to back? Just kind of like talk about your off season program and what do y'all do at MidWestern State?
Yeah, so we're going to lift them in the morning, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, give them a day off in between, go in total body. We're going to go more of a lower upper total split on the first few weeks because we're doing spring ball a little different this year. We're actually doing it early, so not going to have a lot of prep time getting in. So we're going to focus a little more on just kind of work capacity, getting them ready for what they're going to do in spring ball. I'm not even going to worry about much strength or power stuff until we're done with spring ball. But big focus is going to be, again, just Monday, Wednesday, Friday, going to get them in lifts in the morning. We're going to kind of break them up.
Are you doing like bigs, mid skill, or are you just mixing it up based off a class schedule?
So we're
How
gonna
does that go?
go upperclassmen, lowerclassmen, but I'm also gonna get a few upperclassmen in with those underclassmen just to kind of have that leadership we need. Just because, quite frankly, we have a lot of those underclassmen I feel like need a little bit more time and attention. So I want to definitely have them separate. I don't separate by position groups until summer. Summer and then through season we go by position groups. When we're in our early off season, they're all need the same thing. So we're going to be running the same program, maybe a little bit more advanced for some of our upperclassmen. I've done that in the past where I have like an advanced group, an intermediate group, and then a transfers group, which we all know with the portal now is getting bigger and bigger. And at the end of the day, they ended up having similar gains. And so I think at this point, off season, let's focus on bringing everything up. Let's get them where they need to be. My running, I will separate based by position group. My mids and skills will run together, and my big guys will have different running. And it's going to be mostly just volume and distance with what we do with them. That's going to be different. But we do that year round with our running. It's going to be different based on position group with our running. But yeah, once we get out of our spring ball period and I'm able to go in a little more of a developmental phase, I'm going to split them up by position group. So our skills will be a little more power focused, a little more speed, explosive focused, still trying to get a lot more strength on our big guys. And those mids will be a little hybrid program because they need a little bit of both of it. And then we'll go into our speed development out on the field once we're done with our spring ball. So it'll be a lot of acceleration work, working on top end technique, and working through that. Not too worried about conditioning, to be honest with you. I don't care what kind of shape you're in March. We got to get you. If I can't get you in shape in the summer, I'm not very good. So it's all basically speed school. They're almost real similar. Our skill workouts are real similar, a track workout. If I've got 100-meter sprinters there, it looks very similar to what I've got our skill guys doing. Low volume, high intensities, and then working like technique like crazy with some pretty extensive plyometrics in there. So.
Got you. So we get done with spring ball, go right into summer where there's no classes. Explain the summertime, what goes
Yeah.
on with your program.
Summer's fun. Summer's the fun time, right?
Do you have a lot of guys staying over the summer, or do they go home?
I was so proud of our team last year. We had in the month of June, we averaged about 65 guys. And then our freshmen came in July, and we had about 105, 110 guys each day in the month of July,
Nice.
which was awesome. And I had never had that outside of being at Texas and Tarleton. And
Really?
yeah, when I was at
These
Auto,
these guys, I don't know if it's the same for you. They're finding work as well on the side, so they're working during the day, lifting and everything in the morning. Is it the same way there?
yeah, and that was the big change from when I got here. Previously, they would go, morning, mid morning, afternoon, all this stuff. I said we're doing everything in the morning. I'm going to run them as a team in the morning. We started about 6:30 in the morning, get them all done, everybody in at one time, and then I go groups. We'll go a offense, defense, unless there's a work conflict, and then we'll have our newcomers group is our third group, kind of, and really teaching them the basics. It's almost a block zero, see how they're moving. We'll go 5 days a week, with one of those days being a full active recovery, going in there focusing on mobilization, flexibility. If we have time, we'll get a little pump work in because they all want to get bigger shoulders and arms, right? But
Yeah, of course.
got to look good, right? But yeah, it
Look good,
was.
play good.
Oh yeah, exactly. Got to make the sleeves on the jerseys tight. But that's it. And like I said, I was so proud with our attendance last year. I mean, once we got in July, we didn't have a day under 90 guys for the whole month of July, which is, you don't see that a lot of D2s, at least. It's getting more common that way now, but you used to not see that much. So they bought
And
into
y'all are going 4 times, 3 times, 5 times in the summer?
Yeah, so they're with me 5 days. So our schedule is we'll run on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, focusing on our high intensity stuff early in the week. So we'll do our top speed and acceleration work on Monday. Monday's kind of our speed day. So we'll come and we'll do speed work on the field. My bigs are going to be doing some heavy sled work, working on some of that. And while my skills and mids, we're working on top speed accelerations, hitting some wickets, that kind of thing, working through that, and pretty heavy plyometrics for them. But then we'll come in, we'll do some sort of clean variation, a box squat with bands, something like that. It's all speed based, trying to get them while they're fresh early in the week, and hopefully recovered over the weekend. And we can definitely tell who didn't. Tuesday, we'll kind of do more of our intensive conditioning. So it'll be, it's a hard day. They're gassed pretty good, but we come in, and that's an active recovery day. So we'll do a lot of flexibility, a lot of hip and ankle mobilization on that day. And again, we'll do a little pump work at the end if we have time and if they want to do it. A lot of times our guys understand we're working pretty hard and they don't want it. They're gassed. They're like, Coach, I need to recover. And they've done a good job of understanding like when we need to recover. And they're good with that. We squat them on Wednesdays, no running at all. We come in heavy squat on Wednesday. And then Thursday is our change of direction day, but it's more technical. I want to put them in positions. I want to make sure they're getting good angles and really able to decelerate, accelerate, and get in and out of those breaks. With my big guys, it's going to be a little more working out of stances, first 2 to 3 steps, that kind of stuff with them. I'll do some med ball scoop throws, that kind of stuff with them on their Thursday. So it's a little more of a backed off day as far as CNS load. And we'll do another active recovery day, and they have to do some pump work. It's a little bit more accessory work. So we're going to work some more of the injury reduction stuff on that Thursday, working some shoulder work, do some cars, some pels, rails, that kind of stuff. And then Friday, we're going to come in. That's going to be more of our tempo conditioning day. In June. In July, we're going to do more short shuttles on that day, trying to imitate. So we'll go 5-6 seconds of work and rest for about 25-30 seconds, trying to get them ready for the demand of what's going to come in camp. Because my coach, he likes to go quick tempo. He'll run 2 huddles for our offense and 1 for the defense. So if they're not ready, I haven't done my job. So just getting them ready for that. And then it's more of an upper body day. Their legs are going to be shot. So we're going to hit their upper body, and that'll be our lower body strength movement. So we'll do a lunge or a split squat, something like that. But that's kind of layout of our week in June. July is real similar. The only difference in July is we take that change direction day and we use it as another conditioning day, because that's where I'm really hammering conditioning. So we'll do the old school change direction circuit where we have different stations, but we're treating it as conditioning, right? Take all that technique, take everything we've done with them, but it's fast tempo. We're getting after it and try to mimic what they're going to have to be doing to come camp.
Yeah, I was going to say, everybody likes to do their fourth quarter mat drill, county fair type deal at some point in there. So it's cool you said that. So now we're creeping into in-season, preseason. How do you approach an in-season workout? How many days are they going? What days? Just kind of talk about that.
Yeah, so when I got here, we went Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I wasn't a big fan of that. We called Fast Friday, where we'd come in, we'd do a potentiation lift, basically. And when we had our coaching change, I was like, Coach, what are we potentiating for, to go sit on a bus? So we changed it to Monday, Tuesday, and then Thursday. And our Monday, we're going to hit that's when we do whatever our squat variation is. One thing I do that's a little bit different is my skill guys from the month of July on won't touch a bilateral squat until season's over. We do everything a single leg with them. So split squats, lunges, we'll do step ups, whatever variation, but just back off on their legs a little bit. So we'll do that. And then my big guys, they're still squatting heavy and going in there on that Monday. And then we'll do some sort of a hinge and an overhead press, and then just a little bit of mobilization within that, just kind of get their body back right. But my thought is I want to get that squat as far away from the game as we can, but we still got to hit it. Volume is going to be really low. I think that's the biggest change I have is my volume it cuts drastically. We keep fairly high intensities, but we keep our volume down. What we'll do is our Monday, we go about 45 minutes, our Tuesday about 35 minutes, and our Thursday, we're in there for about 25-30 minutes. So as the week goes, I taper down. My Tuesday will snatch or some sort of snatch variation, and then do some upper body. It's a push pull, and then some neck, shoulders, and abs. That's my Tuesday. And then my Thursday is still kind of a fast Friday thought process, but we'll do a clean pull, some sort of dynamic effort squat. I really fell in love with box squats a few years ago, so we usually do some sort of box squat. We do true dynamic. It's 40 to 50%, 8x2, something like that, and work through that. And we'll just wave it. We'll work up to 48% and go back down and just wave it throughout the season. When I was at Ottawa, we had velocity. We had rep one tracker, so I was able to base everything off of how fast they moved it that day. We don't have that right now, so we're going off, coach and I, and how's it moving. But and then Friday, the coolest thing is Friday's a complete day of rest for them. They go through, do a walkthrough with the coaches, and if they want to come in, I'll have like an hour time. They can come in, stretch, roll, do some yoga, whatever they feel like they need. But it is a off day, so they're prepped to go on Saturday, or we're traveling. We'll leave it. 6 or 8 o'clock in the morning sometimes, depending on where we're going, traveling, get off the bus. I take rollers and bands with me so we can do some sort of soft tissue work and just kind of get them moving a little bit. But yeah, I really like the Monday, Tuesday, Thursday. I think you get everything you need early in the week and then kind of taper down, getting them ready to go. Our red shirts, non-travel guys will come in on Fridays, and they'll get a lift early in the morning. And that's when I'm really, because they're usually younger guys, I'm working.
Now, are they staying on that Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday?
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah. So they're
Okay.
going 4 days.
And they're not doing this, are they doing the same thing, or are they doing something different every time they come in?
Yeah, so their program's completely different. So our red shirt guys, our lifting schedule through the week is our red shirts go at 7 o'clock in the morning, and then we have an 8, 9, 10 o'clock group for our travel guys. I try to get as many of those travel guys in the 9 and 10 o'clock as I can, just to help them get a little bit more sleep. 8 o'clock if they have conflicts, and inevitably some of them are going to have an 8 o'clock class, so we'll have to go in and have some of them go at 7. I don't like it, but you got to do what you got to do. So our non-travel red shirt guys, they're running Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday in the weight room with us, and Fridays where we go in the real intensive, like we're going to teach clean technique. Okay, we work deadlifts. We're going to work all the more technical movements that we want to make parts of our staple of our program. And that's what we're hitting on those Fridays. And then we finish it with a little bit of arm farm for them, because we're trying to get those guys bigger. Everybody's favorite. And you know what, like I said earlier, you get buy-in, they see results. You're going to see results in your arms faster than anything else. So let's get a little bit of buy-in from them. And had really good results with that group. That group got really strong this year. And since they're not traveling, they're done. That's an early morning. We go 5:45 Friday morning. So if I'm traveling, I'm able to get on the bus with the team. And the other thing too, it gets them, they get a little bit of a weekend, go to classes. If you're traveling to go see family, I'm not keeping you here late, whatever it is. So that was a really good deal. And another thing we do a little different in season 2 is my skills and mids. I sprint them on Tuesdays. We do speed development Tuesdays in season, the entire season. And I started doing that a few years ago when I was at Ottawa. And then we didn't do it last season, had quite a few hamstrings. Now, I just got here right before season started, but we went from having 12 hamstrings to 1 this last year. So the only change we did training-wise was we threw the sprints in for those skill guys. And it was cool. We got faster as a team, getting on a laser system. We got faster. Guys felt good. They felt explosive. So we still hammer speed work with those skills and mid guys pretty hard in season. We take about the first 30, 35 minutes, and it's not much volume. Right, it's warm up, some light plyo, some broad jumps, something in that nature. We'll do some accelerations, then we'll get them on the lasers. Hey, let's go into lift, and it's right there, right before their lift, and then they'll come in, they'll do a snatch, a bench press, and some sort of pull, either horizontal or vertical, and that's their day, and they loved it, and we had good results from it. And I'm going to keep doing that, I think, going forward.
For sure. How's the travel schedule like for y'all? Is it friendly, or is it long distance?
Yeah, it's pretty friendly. Last 2 years in a row, we've had to go up to Colorado out of the first or second game of the year. So on a bus from here, it's not terrible. 11 and a half, 12 hours. It's not bad. Once we get into conference, we have 2 teams in our conference that are in the Pacific Northwest. So those are flights, which honestly,
how's that?
It's not
Monster,
bad.
huh?
Yeah, it's not bad. I've had both experiences with it since being here. My first year we flew charter, and it was nice. The plane came in to the Wichita Falls Airport. We got on the tarmac, on the plane, flew. It was awesome. This last year we went commercial, so we had to take a bus, down to Dallas Fort Worth, do all that deal. That was a little more of a headache, but
Oh boy, I could not.
it wasn't too bad, to be honest with you. We got there in plenty of time. Our guys are mature. It was, hey, get checked in. Y'all got 45 minutes before our flight. After security, go get some food. Do what you got to do. Just make sure you're at the gate in time. And it was awesome. So it wasn't too bad. I would much rather do the charter. I'll tell you that much all day long. But
Oh yeah.
they both work. But the worst trip going to Colorado, if that's the worst thing we do, it's not too bad. But then we have a team in conference that's, an 11-hour trip. Texas is big, and we're northern part of Texas, and Kingsville's down as far south as you can go pretty much. So that's a long trip. And then Western New Mexico is a pretty long trip. So we work around them. It's not too bad. We don't have any trips we have to leave on a Thursday or anything. Usually the earliest we have to leave is Friday, 6 a.m. And, guys sleep on the bus, and we do a real good job of getting off and moving. We'll do some sort of walkthrough Friday if we're on the bus on a long trip, move around. We go through a nice long stretch. We'll get them lines and stretch them out, do some of our mobilization drills right there, some high school field, or, if we're lucky enough to find a college, big college field, and just get guys moving and do something so we don't ever really get off tight. So it could be a lot worse travel-wise, than what it is.
For sure. What about y'all's nutrition situation? Are they getting, what are they getting after lift, maybe before?
That's my big project I have coming up. We don't have too much right now. We've got options. Our basketball team, they purchase protein. I get it for them. We do Optimum Nutrition for them, and they do shakes after lifts. It comes out of there.
That's the hardest thing to keep weight on
Yeah,
throughout the season.
We'll have some of our guys that are they lose weight like crazy. Hey, you're a 3 scoop kind of guy. They eat a lot. They're high minute guys that can't keep weight on. So they've got a pretty good setup right now. With everybody else, it's kind of on their own. We do a lot of heavy education. That's a lot of my first couple months with any team, with any new athletes, is we'll take the last 5-10 minutes once a week of a lift and start educating on nutrition, teaching them what carbohydrates are, protein, fat, what good options within them are, and then also cover all the fad diets out there. I mean, all the different ones. And the number of athletes I have, hey, do you think carnivore is a good idea? And I was like, no, not as an athlete. If you're Gen Pop, great, go for it. But you need that fuel from the carbohydrates, and do a lot of educating. And the ones that care, they do a great job. The ones that don't care, they're just going to hear you and go on and do their thing, right? Been very fortunate that we have a new director of our food services over in our cafeteria, and she's been at some other schools on the athletic side. She's been really good on turning around our quality of food in our cafeteria and offering more protein options, more clean, good options for our athletes, and then also educating. She's over there and she knows who our athletes are. Hey, you need a little bit of this and that. We're looking at some other options through that and kind of really utilizing our dining services. I've done in the past where through our dining services, I had chocolate milk in the weight room. It's something we're on my radar of things I'm trying to get done. But as you know,
Yeah, local dairy farms are good about that. They'll give you a really cheap deal, and then you said the cafeteria they will usually make us a bunch of PB and J's, and we just half them, and guys just go and slam those.
yeah, those are kind of things we're working through. I don't have. That's probably the one thing that drives me insane here is I don't have any budget at all for strength conditioning. So everything I do, I have to go through a bunch of hoops. So because if I would have had a budget, say I had $10,000, I'm going to dedicate enough for PB and J's. That's what we did when I was at Tarleton as a GA, and we get about last 15 minutes of a lift. One of the interns, they kind of scurry their way back, start making PB and J's, but it was something. So, working on some options there. I would love to. We've got a space for full on fuel station. It's just the funding for it of how we want to do it. But big thing, like again, we really hone on educating. They need to know what they're putting in their body. So it's amazing the number of these athletes coming in that have no clue. They don't know any of it.
Yeah, a lot of what I found, even I was at Delta State in Mississippi, now I'm at Ferris and Michigan, and nothing changes. People don't know when to eat, how to eat, or what to eat. Like you said, they see trends online and want to do the carnivore diet as an athlete, or want to try to lose weight, go on a diet middle of the season. It's like, dude, what are you doing? Like, you're an offensive lineman. You need to be 300 pounds. That's a good thing as well as, like I said, educating. We have a good TV here. I have a bunch of PowerPoints, and we just throw up a bunch of slides up there to try to educate the best we can do. What about some technology? Y'all have any of that?
Yeah, we've got I've got 3 of my own personal VBTs that I'll throw out every now and then because if something moves really fast, I want to know what it is, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right now, we utilize Team Builder and the iPads, which has been a real nice ad to have. That was one of the first things when I got here. I told our AD, is like, we're getting that just because it simplifies everybody's life, mine, the players, just everybody's. We've got dasher system as well as 2 browers that we'll do our speed stuff with. We've got the biggest thing we've added, in my opinion, we use them every single day, is we've got 2 skyhook jump mats, which I love those things. I don't know how familiar you are with them, but they're awesome. The fact that they'll give you RSI and they'll give you discrepancies and they'll give you vertical, they'll give you anything you want. I like to call them like a poor man's force plate, but those have been
Yeah.
a big addition for us. I want to get VBT for the whole room. It's going to be a funding thing on there. I've worked with a few different options, and my favorite one I've used is Rep One. I think it's a good little sturdy device, and it's simple to use. It's very athlete friendly in my opinion. But we've looked at GPS, and it was one of those. We looked at GPS for our soccer teams and our football team. We want to down the road, but right now it's just one of those. We need to get what's going to give us the most. And let's be honest, how often these coaches, you can tell them all the GPS data, are they going to change much of what they do with it? So
Yeah, they don't really care, huh?
yeah, they and what do we use
For
GPS
sure. So, what do
for?
you use to track athletes' progress? Or you mentioned the force plates.
Yeah, so for us, it's the sky hooks to check our RSI and our verticals, see where we're going on that. And then the nice thing, I don't know how much you use Team Builder, but it keeps track of everything, so you can see trends within there. And then we'll work in body weight KPIs, max rep pull ups every few weeks, with our teams. But the biggest ones we lean on are going to be those jump numbers and our speed numbers. Like I said, we sprint our teams pretty much year round, right? So we'll get them out there and we'll do fly 10s in season with either a 5 or a 10-yard build, and we'll take a look at those numbers and see where those metrics are comparative to beginning of season and where they are now. With those jump numbers, it's funny. I send the reports to our basketball coach right now, and half the team is in the yellow, of what we've decided is potential fatigue. And 2 or 3 are in the red. He's like, hey, what's going on? I was like, you got to look. We're miles ahead of where we were at the beginning of the season, right? We're not necessarily fatigued. I think we just peaked, and now we're kind of leveling out, and you just played the number 13 team in the nation, and then you played a really good team day after that. Y'all are a little tired, but we're in such a good position, and the guys and the girls, they understand too. Like, they love seeing those numbers creep up. So really rely heavy on those jump numbers. I think that's a big tell, and it's easy to implement. You tell them, hey, after your third set of snatch, go over and get your jumps. It's easy.
For sure. What do you wish you would have known earlier that you know now that would have helped you as a strength coach?
Hmm. I think early on you try to make everybody happy, and as soon as you realize you're not going to make everybody happy, I think your life gets a lot easier. Not saying you're not going to try and do what's best for everybody, right? But you have to do what's going to be best for the masses, and sometimes a coach isn't going to be happy about something you're going to do in the weight room, right? And we got to keep those coaches happy, but we also need to do what's best for the team at the end of the day, right? So standing your ground. I wish I could have told my young coach self, like, hey, no, if you believe in it, you need to stand by it and not just kind of do whatever else is telling you need to be doing, And I learned this real fast at Ottawa. When I left, we were at 33 sports, a little bit over 900 athletes, and I learned how to say no real fast, because you can't do it all. You can't do it all. As much as you want to, it's in our nature as strength coaches. We want to do it all, but you can't. So if it's something that I don't think is possible, I don't feel good with, like, the word no is not a bad thing sometimes, but you got to, again, build that rapport. But I wish I would have told my young self that, because I was driving myself insane.
A yes man.
What?
You said a yes man?
Oh, yeah.
That you were like?
Yeah, early on I was. I wish I could have just been like, you know what? No. This is what we need to do. This is what I believe in. And then be able to, like, this is why we need to do it that way, right? Because there are a lot of times, in a GA, sometimes you're afraid to say that. You got a full-time coach coming down and telling you to do this, and it's not the right thing to do, but you don't feel like you have that authority, right, to argue with that coach. But in the end of the day, yeah, you do, because you were hired for that job, right? And your director and strength coach wouldn't have hired you if they didn't trust you to do it. So I wish I could tell my young self that, like, hey, no is an okay thing to say. Just don't do it all the time. Save it for when you really need it.
Yeah. What recommendations would you give out for other young coaches that might be listening, people that want to get into this field? What should they be doing right now? Books, articles?
I think they're all, if they're interested in being a strength coach, they've probably already all started looking into all your articles. They look on T Nation, they look on Elite FTS, Simply Faster. They're already doing that. They've probably read all the books. I would say the best thing is you need to talk with other coaches. The knowledge is great, but you need to talk to the ones that are in it and applying it, because what's in the books is maybe works for that coach, or, it's going to work for whoever wrote it or whatever it was, but it's not always going to apply. So the biggest thing is reach out and network, and you never know how a cold call could turn into a job, 10 years down the road. I have coaches that I did that when I was a GA that I speak to one time a year now at a conference. And it's like we saw each other yesterday, and it's nice to have that relationship, but build those relationships and then find out what you're passionate about. If you're a movement guy or girl, that's your thing. If you want to be a speed development person, that's your thing. I think generalize early, but you need to figure out what your passion is and what's going to set you apart. And it's a good coaching colleague of mine told me, he's like, it can't be, I connect with the athletes. Because if you can't connect with the athletes, you can't do the job. We all connect with the athletes in some way or another. You're not going to last long. Find what makes you different. Find what you're passionate about, and find what's going to take you to the next level and lean into it. But you also need to be able to be a generalist at the same time, be able to do everything, because at small schools like this, you've got to do it all, right? But you also need to be able to, like I said, I love creating good movers. I would say that is kind of I want you to move as best as possible, but got to get them stronger, got to do all that, got to be able to wear all the different hats. So my time being at all the different levels, I think really helped me with that. But I would tell a young coach, network out there like crazy. And most coaches in this field, they're not just going to blow you off. They're going to respond to you and say, hey, I can't right now, reach back another time. Or they're going to answer, and they're going to take 10, 15 minutes of their time, talk with you. So network, and then that can lead to a bunch of different things. I know a former coworker that he was an intern at one of my previous schools. He got a GA spot just because of his Instagram, So he
Yeah, for
out.
sure.
It was like,
That's everyone's resume now as a strength coach is social media.
oh yeah, yeah. And I'm not great at it. I'll be 100% honest. Like I
Yeah,
like to look. I look at a lot of things on there, but I need to do a better job myself at posting. For one, to show off what our athletes are doing, but two, to help with the networking side. I'm kind of old school, and I'd like on cold calls and looking up coaches or just reaching out to people, but need to do a better job on the social media. I told my wife that the other day, that I want to kind of be better at it. It's something with
yeah,
everything we do. I don't think about it.
for sure. That's how you know when a strength coach is looking for a job, is what I've always said.
Yeah,
They're
true.
starting
It's
to,
true.
Nah. But no, it is a great way to brag and show what these guys and girls are doing. And, again, you've done a real great job. So, last thing, do you have any shout outs or anything you want to give?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be where I'm at if it wasn't for Rod Cole. He's retired now, enjoying that slow life. He's doing some personal training on the side and loving his life. I wouldn't be where I am without just his guidance throughout the years. Almost 10 years now, I've been able to reach out to him as much as I can. Obviously, any good coach will tell you, you got to marry a good wife. My wife's phenomenal. She, in our first 6 years of marriage, we moved eight times, now
I'm
maybe
on that
across.
track right now, too.
Oh yeah. It might've been a crosstown move, but it was a move. Right. And it's stressful, and she's been phenomenal. She's been extremely supportive for, me chasing a career that isn't always great. It's late nights, early mornings, weekends, all that stuff. But I wouldn't be able to be where I am and happy as I am with what I do if it wasn't for her support and, what she does for us and our family. And then just obviously all the athletes that made it worth coming in every day. That's what we do it for. At the end of the day, we want to win. We want to go out there, but if it wasn't for working with amazing athletes, we couldn't do it. So coming in and just having a great attitude, and the ones that have kept up with me when they're done. I got invited to one of my former athletes' wedding the other day. It was one of the coolest things, right? It's one of the first ones
That was awesome.
going to a form. I'm going to go to it. It's here in a few months, and I'm going to be happy to go to it. And you build those relationships with those athletes. You spend 4 or 5 years with them. You build great relationships with them, and I've had some really great ones to work with in the past.
Sure. Well, again, thanks, Coach Adams. I couldn't thank you enough for joining on the show.
Of course, no, thanks for having me on.
Thank you for tuning in. And if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. You can also follow us on Instagram for more updates at Under the Barbell Strength Podcast. And if you know someone who would love this episode, please share it with them.